There we go. Ah. So were you guys chatting about the book? Or
No, actually, I was busy trying to get Bryce settled in before you came in.
all righty. Yeah, sorry I'm late. We actually just got out of the shop and I got Mark's call set up, and so
Life
here we
happens.
are. What's that?
Life happens.
It does. It does. We're ready to be done butchering chickens, but people keep calling, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. Self-compassion this week. I thought it was a really good one to have with our abundant living habits of sitting in silence this week and self-massage last week. Oop, you're muted, Amanda.
So Andrea's on her way.
All right. Just made it go by.
You know, sitting in silence is my favorite. So
Yeah. 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 Did you look at the Dr. Kristen Neff's website at all that she mentioned at the end of the chapter?
no, I didn't. I ran out of time.
Yeah, that's okay. I listened to some of her stuff today while we were doing birds. And I have a link in the messenger. It's really pretty interesting. I was gonna have us do one of the meditations that she has, a guided meditation, but since I'm not on my computer, I have no idea how to make my phone do it. I probably could, but I'm gonna have to work too hard to make it happen. I could. I bet. You know what? Let me see. Google Drive. Wow, there's a lot of choices on. Whoops. I didn't want to do that. You didn't want to look at me. Where did I see it? Okay. If I share my screen, start now. Okay, hang tight, because I think I still have. Uh-oh. Nowhere else I can get it. But it was really good because she talks you through something, and I thought especially for our sitting in silence, sometimes having a focus, not just sitting, but having a focus around what you're doing. So you're not just hanging out, and chilling, but there's a focus to it. And I thought of that too in the context of thinking of each other, or I guess some people might call it praying for each other this week, but making a focus and a purpose to your sitting in silence. So practicing holding someone intentionally. And I put that idea in the group, but
We're on guidepost 3, right?
2.
I went too far.
Can you hear what she's saying? Or no?
Oh, is something playing?
I was trying to. Is it,
Oh.
could you hear it?
Nope, I was sitting in silence, Jill.
Yeah. Ah, shucks. Can you see my screen?
Nope, mug of coffee.
Oh. Well, of all the frustrations. Okay, well, then maybe I won't screen share, and now I don't know how to get out of this. Uh-oh.
Why don't you go out and back in?
Whoops.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, there we go. Everything's complicated on the phone. Much more difficult.
That is true.
Anyway, yeah, there's some good, a few at least good meditations on that website. Under, I think it's a practices tab, self-compassion practices or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah. But she talks, and now I don't know if the 3 pillar, or yeah, these are the 3 pillars of, or 3 elements of compassion. And she talks about them in some of the exercises. Self-kindness, which is really just basically treating yourself the way that you'd treat other people. Common humanity, knowing that, yeah, it happens to everyone. You're not that special, even though it feels very unique. You know, it's nothing new. So other people have survived. And then mindfulness, taking a balanced approach to negative emotions. And that was so one of the things that I thought about was she talked about perfectionism, but I wondered about self-pity as being something that's a little bit opposite of compassion.
Yeah. I could see that. Living in the woe is me instead of embracing the positive aspects.
Yeah, yeah. Either, it just seemed to me that both perfectionism and pity, you get stuck. It's a stuckness, where compassion allows you to take stock and feel it, and then move on. Keep on
Yeah.
going.
Giving yourself grace to make the mistakes and learn from it.
Yes. I liked your word grace over self-compassion. I thought it's more concise for one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Grace.
So what other thoughts? That was a few of my thoughts. And I think I talked to on the last week's call with self-massage, how much of a self-compassion that thing is, because you're making connection
Mm-hmm.
and really showing yourself love, embracing all your imperfections, especially when you start doing whole body massage. You know, you're just embracing yourself and connecting to yourself for what it is. And
Yeah.
that
All
can
the
take a lot of courage sometimes.
imperfections.
Right.
Yeah.
Those extra bulges and squishes that you thought, whatever, but
Fluffy.
right. Plush. Mark he used that word a couple times after babies, It's like, you're just plush. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, my child was trying to school me on, I was talking about what was the gas pedal and the brake, and I called the brake fat pedal. And she didn't like that. She goes, Mom, it's
Oh.
thick. The entire time I'm going, yeah, I don't think that's much better. If you were to say somebody's a thick person over a fat person, I think it's the same insult. Yeah. But she was trying to school me in manners because calling something fat, I said, it's an inanimate object. I can call it fat.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess that's a part of the self-love. She was teaching me self-compassion towards an inanimate object, but still compassion.
Right. No fat shaming things that don't care. I don't know. But,
Yeah,
yeah,
I rocked that today.
it's okay.
They don't
Oh,
breathe. That's okay.
Right.
Right.
Said I could call
Oh.
it fat. I'm fat. I'm good with it. She's like, you are not fat, Mom. You're thick. Yeah, not better.
Oh. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So
Level to
what
get
else
dark
jumped
for a
out?
second, guys. I'm gonna turn this light up. Blinds me.
What else jumped out at you guys between authenticity, self-compassion, I've been trying to use her 3 words that are the root of wholehearted living, so I remember them.
Connected, compassionate, and what's the other one?
Caring.
Connection, courage. Oh yeah,
Ooh.
courage. Courage, compassion, connection.
And courageous.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever.
I didn't do this 3 C's. I went towards what I got from the chapter was more about self-awareness, because in it she's talking to her 1,000 email list, and they said, well, I don't have an issue with shame. I have an issue with being a perfectionist. And it's like being self-aware that an item can have 2 definitions, such as perfectionism breeds shame, because that's the mentality. Oh, well, I just have to do better. I'm not as good as so-and-so. I have to live this perfect life. And to me, that was more of like a self-awareness. It's being able to step back and say, oh, yeah, I can see where that can be a concern, where a lot of people would say being perfectionist is a good thing. Employers, they like that.
I don't know. Because I'm with you. Actually, as an employer, the perfectionistic people are a pain in the butt because they ride everybody. And if something is wrong, it's not their fault.
Oh, true.
Because they're running from that shame thing. If it's not right, well, it has to be somebody else because it can't be them because of the shame thing.
Yeah, they've done all this work and there's no way that that was wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
And it goes into that blaming, and whether it's self-blame or blaming everyone else because you're not It stems back to the self-awareness. It's being aware of emotion, situation, the positive and negative side of everything, like perfectionism.
Nice. How about you guys, Bonnie or Andrea? What jumped out at you from this one?
Go ahead, Bonnie. Unless you want me to go.
Well, you can. I mean, I've read through the book and I'm actually listening to it a second time now, but I don't even remember where I left off on it. I'm not reading it, I'm listening to it. So there's a difference.
Yeah,
It's hard for me to comprehend it unless I hear it a couple times. So
yeah. Yeah, I started the chapter probably like 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and then I just finished it this afternoon. But it hit pretty hard. Like, I was reading some of it, and I mean, of course, like, we all have bits and pieces of this, right? Like, parts of it are all true, and it's just sometimes just a little shocking to read, and or maybe I should say convicting, right? But I see a lot of myself in that perfectionist stuff, and yet when I said something to my husband about it, he's like, "What? You're a perfectionist?" Because it's not like I do things perfectly. Like, it doesn't end up translating, into like everything being neat and tidy and perfect. But I think there's still tendencies right in there, and yeah, I don't know. I appreciate it. This isn't my first time hearing this either, so I think it's good to hear it again and again. And I feel like I'm hearing people remind each other of it too, which is helpful. Like, if you wouldn't say that to if you wouldn't say that to someone else, then don't say it to yourself, right? Like, just practicing self-compassion and accepting mistakes. And I've been thinking too lately about like the whole authenticity and how if I'm authentic with others about my mistakes, it frees them up to not have to be perfect either. So I don't know, I haven't had a chance to dig deeper into the materials, at the end of the chapter. And Jill, thank you for sharing that link, because that made it really easy to not have to look it up ourselves. We could just pop into the link in Messenger. That was nice. That was a good touch. So I did look at those today, but I haven't had a chance to listen. I'm pretty sure I heard her on a podcast with Brené Brown once, because it all sounded really familiar. Her name sounded familiar, but yeah, I did a lot of underlining, but I can't say that I did a lot of note taking yet. But it resonated, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to break some of it. And I feel bad because I'm pretty sure I've shamed my kids and my family because of it. And I think that's what makes me feel the worst. I mean, it's one thing if you mess yourself up, it's another if you mess your kids up, it's pretty scary. But sometimes I wish we'd done this a long time ago.
Yeah, but would you have been open to it a long time ago? We were at different ages then, in different places in our lives. It's no different than I tell my husband all the time. I wish I would have known you when I was younger.
Yeah.
He reminded me I wouldn't have liked him when he was younger.
Right. Yeah, I
We're
guess
now-
the thing we hit this age and we're kind of sick of it, right? Like we're we're at that beautiful age of like, I'm done with it. I'm just gonna be real.
Yep.
But
So Dave made me
wanna be
listen to a podcast this weekend that made me think of this book. And ironically, it's specifically this chapter with being true to yourself and claiming your vices and all of that. And it was Joe Rogan, and, not P. Diddy. Oh, Snoop Dogg.
yeah,
Oh,
Obama and Snoop Dogg, or what is it? No.
Joe Rogan and Snoop
Rogan.
Dogg.
Okay.
and they were talking about being, and that Snoop Dogg has been able to stay relevant because he just tells it like it is, and that's it. You don't get this fake persona, you don't get this image. Snoop Dogg is Snoop Dogg. Yes, I'm talking about the podcast you made me listen to. Yes. Smoke weed and drink a lot of alcohol. But it was truthful, and it really made me think about some of the words she said in this chapter and other chapters, but about being true to yourself and not being afraid of judgment from others or the image that people think they want to see, and just be you.
Yeah, that's funny, Andrea, that you mentioned how you want to be perfection, like, and because I know that's a drive for you, and that you work very hard at it, and yet don't feel like you ever get there, and it doesn't seem like it shows up. Because I have one son who's like that, like he wants to actually have, yeah, one of them that wants to do everything perfectly. And it just like he's always that close. And so he's almost afraid to move out and do things. If he doesn't feel pretty confident that he can do it well, he won't take a risk. And I know that he beats himself up pretty hard. And he can be kind of hard on other people too sometimes, by the same token, just because of that inadequacy that he feels inside himself. So it's kind of interesting that you mention that, and that it's so hard to give yourself grace and compassion, and that sometimes that shows up in the outer world as well when you feel it inside.
Yeah, I'd like to understand what it is that drives some people to this and other people not, right? Because I mean, I have always valued excellence and beauty and hard work. And, you know, it's like, if we were to look at our values, I wonder what would show up. And then how that translates into, you know, the negative, the negative, you know, when things are taken too far or too seriously or too whatever, is that when it turns into perfectionism? Or, you know, at what point does that become a bad thing? And at what point is it a good thing? Because yeah, I don't want a heart surgeon or brain surgeon who's not a perfectionist, you know, like I want them to get it right. Right. Like, and if people weren't driven to do new things, we wouldn't, you know what I mean? So some of that drive is really important and helpful and beneficial. So yeah, I'm kind of like, just kind of
I
mulling
think
that.
perfectionism is fine if you don't back it up with the negative talk after, if you don't achieve it. Instead, you back it up with the positive thinking of, okay, this is what went wrong. What can I achieve better or do better to fix it? As for the mainstream perfectionism, it can come down to the internet. Because of you see homes that are gorgeous and all decked out. You go Google search homesteading and you get the gorgeous whitewashed everything with white carpets and flooring and nothing ever really practical. You Google farmhouse and you get the same thing. Everything's gorgeously put away, when in reality you've got syringes everywhere and muddy boots and random coats laying around trying to dry. So, you know, you see these mainstream, what beautiful houses, people, cosmopolitan was big with us when we were little. the magazines about, oh, we got to be as thin as a straw, a twig, because of Britney Spears and all of these other beauty regimens. And I think that comes down through every generation. It's just becoming more of an issue because of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the way that we can communicate with people all around the world. I'll get off my soapbox.
You said, oh, and I just forgot the word. Darn it.
I have a smart one occasionally.
Oh, shoot. Huh. I forget now exactly how you put it. But, phew, darn it all. Where the perfectionism,
What
though,
was she talking about?
yeah, it was like close to the beginning and then you expounded on it.
Oh,
But my
being constructive.
takeaway thought, yes, thank you. Yeah, where perfectionism tends to, at least in this context, it sucks the life out. It creates a lot of negative self-talk, where a healthy, she calls it a health-striving self-talk, but compassionate self-talk is seeing this as an opportunity. It's opportunistic.
Mm.
You see the failure not as, or the thing that didn't work, not as a failure and I'm awful, I'm horrible, or, which for some people then shows up as they attack the people around them because they can't be horrible, it must be you.
Mhm.
Versus saying, well, that didn't work. What can we learn? And using it as an opportunity to grow.
That's what I was gonna say. One of the books that I read last year or last summer, remember when I was like, I'm gonna try to read books.
Right.
One of, I think his name is Adam Tozer, and the book is called Think Again. And it's just all about the science behind rethinking ideas and not settling for one direct, but considering other options and like in science where they don't ever figure that it's done. You're always learning. There's always more aspects to grow. There's always more layers to the onion. There's always more, right? And how that just encouraged me to feel like it's okay to make a mistake because you're going to learn from it. And that's part of a journey instead of you have to have it right every single time. And there's no room for failure. You know what I mean? That's such a closed-ended, dead-end thought process compared, so in a way it wasn't I guess the message I got from the book wasn't perfectionism is bad. It was more perfectionism is so short-sighted, there's so much more to be learned and to be had and to be gained from different viewpoints and making mistakes and trying again and trying it a different way. And, just looking at things as a string or a journey, an ongoing process rather than an end result, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
And it's so, and self-compassion fits right into that, because if you have a mindset of I'm going to try this. I mean, we do this with abundant living too. You're like, well, I can try it. There's no harm in trying, and I can try massaging my arms and my face and, rubbing oil everywhere and see what happens. It's not you have to have it perfect. Everything's an experiment and you're trying, but there you go. I think again, it's a really good book. I loved it.
Yeah. So she talked about kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And when you apply those to perfectionism, is looking for a single outcome. The bar is this.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you look at what's going on, like the self-massage, if I start rubbing my arms and my belly, what might happen? You become open to any number of possible outcomes rather than there having to be one right one. And so then it's a lot easier for the grace to come in, for kindness, because there isn't necessarily a right end. It's more an experiment. And it's true, when Amanda's doing her accounting, there is a right end and it needs to get there.
Hardly ever there, but the goal.
I know. I know. As our bookkeeper, I say, you know what? Creative writing is my thing. And unfortunately, my creative writing bent and my numbers sometimes get confused here. So
I use that term all the time. It's not creative writing in accounting, it's creative accounting, because sometimes you just have to figure out how to force it.
Can I tell you a funny? I read in Reader's Digest last night to my family. This place was hiring for I guess a bookkeeper job or something. I'm gonna mess it all up because it's a joke and I won't get it right, but it was a finance position. Thank you, Mark. And they go through, like, of course, it's a classic joke scenario. So there's 3 different people that apply, and the first one is the second one was lawyer. First one's an engineer. Was the engineer, and he was like, oh, the question was, what's 2 + 2, right? And the engineer was, he showed them on a scale where 2 + 2 equaled somewhere between 3.99999 and 4.00001. And they're like, no, I don't think so. And then the next guy comes in and he's a lawyer and he's like, well, 2 + 2 equals 4. And they're like, no, I don't think so. And then the accountant comes in and they say, what's 2 + 2? Or what's the answer? And he gets up and closes the door and comes back and he whispers, what do you want it to be?
Yep.
Love that. I'm like, yep.
Yep, we get pretty creative, especially when it comes down to pennies, because those are normally bookkeeping errors, because where we rounded up and the bank didn't round up, they rounded down, and
Yeah.
Yep.
yep,
That's
and
where
those
it's nice
pennies
to-
add up over a year. Yeah, but the same thing
Yeah.
with me, Andrea. I'm not a perfectionist. I don't consider myself a perfectionist, but I have different items that I am very much a perfectionist on. My soap, my craft. If it doesn't meet this bar, which since starting this book and the last one, oh gosh, Gay Hendricks book,
The
I
big
keep,
leap. Yes.
yeah, big leap. I keep thinking about, okay, there's this bar in perfectionism, but who set it? Who has this ultimate control over what my reality of perfection is? And it's kind of like the glass ceiling and moving into your zone of genius. Well, I control that. So then my level of perfectionism should be my bar, not a bar that was set by Jane Doe, who has someone said, yeah, they liked it. I can't see. But yeah, stuff like that. It's my life, my bar. I should set it, nobody else. My little rant, I guess. I'm really good at rants tonight. I should shut up.
Oh, I love it. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. I thought I was muted. Sorry if I was making a lot of noise. I love
You
your
were.
rant.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing when you think about grace and compassion, and you think about the things where you are consciously giving that to yourself. Who does set that bar? And sometimes it is external, like when you didn't get your grant,
Mhm.
but how you, yeah, the stories that you tell yourself about that stuff. What's
Yeah.
the opportunity that opens up versus when you can make that adjustment, that flip, and realize, oh, well, maybe I was just jumping off over the wrong bar, or someone else set it impossibly high. I'm okay. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that it could be,
Mhm.
depending on the thing.
Or it was just practice for the next bigger one.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I mean, it's that frame of mind of this happened to me or this happened for me, right? Like,
Mhm.
what do I learn from this? What do I gain from this? You know, how am I gonna be different, stronger next time because of this?
Yeah, and the ironic
It's
thing
always
is
an
we
easy
teach our-
frame of mind to get in, but
Sorry,
say it again.
I think I had a lag and I cut you off. I'm sorry. I said the ironic thing is we teach our kids to understand that, like, if you lose a race or you lose a game in a sport, that what can you take away from this? What can you learn? And yet we ourselves don't apply it to our own lives. I was just telling my daughter that today. Like, she was getting really frustrated at softball practice, and I said the exact same thing. What do you take away from it? What did you learn? And yet when we have failures as adults, I don't know if a switch flips when we hit and become older and decide that, you know, we should know better because we've been around the block, or because John Smith, who's the same age as me, has got this figured out. Why don't I have it? But if we can teach our kids, why don't we teach them by showing?
A lot of that too shows up in understanding that gap and gain mentality. I think when we're focused on the gap yet, we tend to, I didn't make it. You're looking at what isn't. When you're taking the gain mentality, then you are learning from everything. But it's a shift. And
Yeah.
maybe we're giving our kids a gift that we didn't get, maybe.
I'd like to
Or-
hope that's the goal, right?
Right. Because
Ultimately,
compassion
that's why
says,
we do it.
yeah, compassion says you didn't quite make it. Yeah, but you did better than last time. And you're going to do better next time because you've learned this and this and this. So we gained. And as long as you gain something. I know sometimes you got to dig deep to find the gain, but sometimes you have to dig deep for compassion too, and to give yourself kindness and to be mindful. It's a
You know,
deep
there's
thing.
that Benjamin Hardy video the other day. I think you posted it too. It was like a quick trick to like being happy or something, not being happy, but like, I don't remember what it was, but he was talking about, you know, writing yourself a letter 20 years from now, or you're having your future self write you a letter for now, and about what's important and what you're going to look back on and, you know, be glad that you did, or basically, you know, like what really, really matters. And I find that my tendency is towards task, work, you know, check off. and part of that is just part of life. There are things to get done and things to do and stuff, but I forget to take moments to like really enjoy and build relationships, and just, and like you said, just feel joy, just experience joy and let that soak in. And I feel like it's the same with that self-compassion, like just taking moments, just like moment of silence or whatever it is, sitting in silence, just to like experience joy. And you know what I'm getting at? Rather than like, what is your future self going to tell you about self-compassion versus beating yourself up, right? Like
On the same perspective, one of my favorite sayings, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but I have it up on the wall in the basement, is to remember that the life that I'm living now, I dreamed of 10 years ago. And it just reminds me, like you said, where you are compassionate and say, this was my dream. And yes, I've got another dream and I'll get there, but I need to enjoy this first dream and then move on to the next. So taking that breath and enjoying.
Yeah. And that's definitely, I mean, stepping back and talking about wholehearted living, taking a moment to just sit in grace and appreciation and to just be is a big part of that. To just enjoy where you're at and appreciate that you weren't here at one point and you're not going to stay here for forever. And maybe that's part of the whole grace and compassion thing as well. To flip that script, Andrea had asked that question at the beginning, how to step out of perfectionism in any form into grace, because it's not always easy. But taking that moment to appreciate would be a starting place. What are some other ideas? Because she had the one question that kind of put it a little differently too. If we want to live and love wholeheartedly, how do we keep perfectionism from impairing our efforts? I think this would be part of the get going of the dig, the going.
It's back inside.
Sorry, we're trying to get the cat in. My answer to that is that I'm no longer classifying it as perfectionism, period. So there is no perfect. That's not the term I'm using. And Mr. Hendricks, I hate him and love him all in one. I'm calling it the zone of genius. That is me stepping across that boundary that's uncomfortable and unknown. And maybe baby steps, and I may only keep my toe over there for a minute or two and then come back, but it's a process. So I don't think I like the term of being perfect, because I'm not perfect. Nobody is. We're all human. It's part of that humanity. Shoot, that just shut on me. Common humanity. That was mine.
Any other ideas? I like that one. Just changing out your words is a lot of power.
It helps
perfect.
self-talk too, because if you don't use perfectionism and the term perfect, you're just using a task. Like Andrea said, she's task oriented. Instead, it's a task completion, moving on to the next.
Mm-hmm. I like that process idea as opposed to the checkbox idea.
Yeah. Because processes are always evolving. They're not permanent. You figure out a new way to
Right.
do it, easier, saves time, energy. Okay. There's the detour.
Yes. Yeah. And when something doesn't turn out quite right, it's just part of the learning process. It reframes your whole thinking around how you approach all the tasks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how to make the corrections. I had this brilliant idea with soap and I spent hours creating it, and it was for the Halloween release. It was an absolute flop. And it was because my market is not interested in buying the extravagant, gorgeously handcrafted witch's hat on top of, they're just not. That they want a good quality bar soap that's just simple, may have a little prettiness on it, but nothing too over the top. And I was trying to advance my skills and show my skills, and wasted time. But I enjoyed it and I learned. So I'll take it as a victory, and everybody gets to use this soap for the rest of the year. Hope they like it.
And you learn something about your customer base and
Yeah.
your ideal client.
Mhm.
That we're talking
Yep.
about. So
So
It was
it's taking flops and turning them into victories. My family can wash their butts for the rest of the year.
you have a lot of Christmas presents.
With witches' hats and spell books on them.
Sure, why not? Wrap it in birthday paper and then it throws the whole thing off and they'll just think it's funny.
I like it. It's like a gag gift. That is brilliant. I'm doing it. Jill, you're getting a witch's hat. So
It's okay. I'll bring it to our family's white elephant gift exchange and then maybe Andrea can end up with it. So,
there we go.
because she'll appreciate it with his hat and all.
I'm madly trying to think of how you could repurpose like a witch's hat to some other holiday or season, or we'll come up with something. Like there's got to be something.
Well, there's also candy corn that it's, and the soap topping is like caramel apple fragrance is really
Yeah, that is pretty.
difficult soap to repurpose. Gag gifts, white elephants. Oh yeah.
Well,
I
there
got
you go. You could,
Jill.
you know what? You could probably even market that for Christmas. Get your gag gift white elephant gift.
25% off.
There you
all of
go.
that.
Thing. Pay for
Dave
my
won't have-
supplies.
Dave won't have to feel quite so squeaky clean all the time.
Aw.
Sure, he'll be heartbroken. I've got soaps for days for mistakes because of, well, in past perfectionism. I refuse to put anything out on the website that wasn't up to a bar that I don't know who the hell set, but
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, going back to the authenticity thing, it's it starts with being real with yourself. And then when you can let yourself show up as real in your world, that's sort of the ultimate grace. And even if it doesn't work out, you're still being real with yourself. And it makes it feel a little better when it's authentic versus when you've put up this, everything on the website has to be perfect. And then when somebody comes up with, because gremlins happen in websites or links don't work or whatever,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really hard to, show up as real when you've had this, what ends up being a false expectation. So authenticity and compassion really layer together, just being real. There's a lot of grace in being real, and people give you more grace, I think. Maybe not.
People that know you will give you grace. I don't
Right.
know if all customer bases would give grace,
But
but
they know whether you're going to be real or not.
in all honesty, do we really care about a random person's vision of us? I know some people do, but
Yeah.
I don't. I think that goes towards that perfectionism loophole if you worry about everybody else.
Yeah. And when you are so worried about making everybody happy, you're never going to make everybody happy. But when that's your goal, you're no longer real with yourself. And so authenticity is out the window, and that's the bedrock of everything. Because you might as well show up how you are. You're not going to make everybody happy anyway. So when you're standing in your own truth by being real, it's a lot easier to take those bumps that, there's always somebody who's got yelled at by their kid, and so they're upset and they give you a bad review because they feel bad, it happens.
Yeah. I used to be that way. It's your fault, Jill. I'm changing because of you.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the negative thinking? Oh, placing blame elsewhere.
Good luck with that.
How about I place it on the gallbladder? This process started Tank's gallbladder.
Right. Yeah. But that is interesting because the gallbladder. Yeah, well, it wasn't exactly the gallbladder. It was everything I did to the gallbladder. Yeah, but I didn't know any better, and I was just doing the best I could with, at the time, surviving the army and the deployments and my mom and missing my daughter, all of those further back, and the story can go back from there. And well, yeah, I was there because,
Exactly. It can keep snowballing, but ultimately, I think I like looking at that gains side of it.
Mhm.
Because it started because the gallbladder decided to tell me it hated me and everything that I've done. But ultimately, because it did what it did, I have now graduated from counseling. I'm off all medications for depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bobby. So, it's one of those things that, do I have a shit ton more work to do? Oh yeah. But I kind of like who I'm turning into. Not so angry anymore. Used to be so angry, like mad at everything.
Mhm. Now you got grace.
Now I got grace. Yeah, grace and sitting in silence. I love those two. Sitting in silence. I do that still. Almost every day.
Oh yeah. Which is really a practice of letting things come up, digest, and go. And passion, that was one of the things that I pulled out of this when she's talking, actually more on the that website, Kristen Neff's website, the meditations were about letting things go, letting it come up and letting it go. And that's what Sit in Silence is really marvelous for.
Yeah, lately I've been using it in the evenings because I'm still working, trying to do this big launch with Christmas. Thank you, my worst season. And I can't shut my brain down. So instead I enable it by getting on my phone and start doing research and all that shenanigans. So I use the sit in silence method right now, where I'm allowed to think of it, but I can't do the research. I can't pull up my phone. And as soon as it's come up, okay, yep, I've identified that as an issue that needs to be solved, put it on the list. And that can be item number 1 tomorrow morning. So that's now tasked and keynoted, but that's not a fire. Is this really a fire that needs to be dealt with at 11 o'clock at night?
Right.
That was last night. Packaging, my mind thought was important at 11 o'clock at night last night.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a
Stupid
person.
tissue paper and stickers.
Yeah. That's, I love that. I've done it before with putting things, if not writing them down physically, putting them in mental files or a mental box. And okay, that'll be there when I'm done sitting here. No worries, not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like packaging, it'll be there in the morning, not going anywhere.
Yep,
So
that box is not going to ship for you, even if you buy it on Amazon at 11 at night.
right.
It will be there in the morning.
Yep. Yeah. Which is I love, I'm hearing sitting in silence, bringing grace and compassion into your life.
Yeah.
Because it's allowing that buffer, it's a tool to step back and say, it doesn't all have to be done immediately, right now, exactly right. It's okay. It'll be there tomorrow. And giving yourself that space with grace.
Yeah. Come a long way, guys. We've all come a long way.
Yes. So,
Yep, I agree with that. I've been doing a whole lot more sitting in silence too, and I've seen a difference in myself as well as my habits of my eating habits. I've noticed lately have, well, for instance, yesterday I broke into some chocolate. I would turn around and eat handfuls of it. I got 2 bites in and think, I can't eat no more. Just,
Too sweet, bitter.
that's a plus.
woohoo, yeah, that's a
Good
good
job.
sign. Being more grounded. Yeah.
And true to your body's health. Because if your body's not craving it, and then you listen to it, instead our brains would go, oh no, I want the chocolate for that endorphin kick. You know.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next guidepost is resiliency, letting go of numbing and powerlessness. So right up your alley there. So the digging, getting deliberate, inspired, and going. What are you inspired to from our conversation? Or going? What are you, what can you do with this?
I'm ordering the book so it's easier for me to follow along rather than, busy trying to listen or being busy as I'm listening and then get so far ahead that when you guys are talking about it, I'm lost. Because I'm remembering what it was in this chapter, but not so much what you guys are talking about. Yeah, I'm gonna order the book now. So yeah.
Bonnie did the same thing last go around with Gay Hendricks' book, and yeah, I learned quickly and ordered the book. Well, I lost the stupid book and I was refusing to buy another one, and as soon as I bought the next one, I found the old one. So, but I was doing the same thing with the audibles. I was listening to the audible and then I'd be like, what page are you on? What are we talking about? The book really
It's nice and convenient if it's just you, but if you're doing it in a group, yeah, you gotta have the book.
but I do love the audible version too. So I normally buy them
Mhm.
both, and then depending on where I'm at.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm gonna be doing.
Uh,
So I think if I was, oh, sorry, Amanda, did I cut you off?
No, you're good.
You were asking about the dig in, like, what do I want to do? And I do want to go back to that website to Kristen Neff's stuff and look at that a lot deeper. But I think the thing that I'm working on is just catching myself doing negative talk, and that, and trying just recognize when it happens. And then, I mean, it would be great to journal about it. That would be, but I'm not going to do that because I'm being realistic here. But just catching myself and realizing that it's happening. Yeah, that's my first step. I think pretty little, but yeah.
Mine is rewording for constructive information. So like not using the term perfectionism. I think she classifies it on page 58 as the perfectionism talk versus a healthy, striving self-talk. But to me, it's more like trying to break down the not even self-imposed barriers, but like the bars that society has put into place that has been ingrained into the mentality of this is what's beautiful, this is what's popular, this is what's perfection, and just not following those bars. Then I can work on being authentic, because then you don't have the anxiety and the stress from breaking those bars. They're already down. So that's my thought process. Taking in a couple bites. Can't eat an elephant whole, but you can take it a couple bites and deal with a bigger issue. What's yours, Joe?
I loved what you said about compassion and looking at it as an opportunity to grow. Because I'm kind of getting through a place of feeling like everything I've done has failed, nothing worked, I'm not good at it, so quit. It's like, okay. Ready to look at the opportunities and start to flip that. So yeah, I have some ideas and I'm actually working on them, but doing it from a place of compassion rather than a place of, well, you screwed up, so now we got to fix it and figure it out. And no, it's okay. It's an opportunity. You can do something different because that didn't work. So now we can just do it differently and figure out what that looks like. And
I think
but
she,
coming at,
oh, go ahead.
but just coming at it from a place of compassion is kind of a big mindset shift. So
Yeah, not a failure, learned experiences.
right, right. But when it's a big failure, you got to really think about that. And that's a very conscious decision to reprogram that. So
But who classifies it as the big failure? That's literally where my mind has gone with this stupid chapter, is who classifies this as big or little, perfect, not perfect? Who? Casper? If you enjoyed the path and you've learned from it, what makes it a big failure?
A change in direction, probably.
Yep.
yeah,
So maybe we're not skydiving, but instead we're cave splunking, you know? A little extreme, but
Not Super Mario Kart, it's Minecraft, okay?
oh, yeah, thank you.
Mario Kart, there's a path and an end and a finish line and a winner. And Minecraft, it's just like, go any which way, right? And you can go up and down and sideways and tunnels and
that's
anyway.
right.
There's
You can
my
go. You can go from skydiving to spelunking pretty quick in Minecraft, right?
yeah.
Instead, let's think of this as Mario Kart. You just hit a couple bananas. You will get to the end and you'll find your end. You're still learning who's the enemy and who you need to like take out on the go-karts.
Okay.
Mine's Dave. I gotta get Dave out of the way. He's vindictive.
Right.
So, yeah.
It wasn't, I don't know if it was in the book. Tell me, because I was also listening to a podcast today, and so I might have heard it there, but I feel like she said something about how we flourish much better under love conditions than we do under shaming conditions. And it's a pretty simple, like, it's like, no duh, right? Like, we get this. And yet yeah. Why is that still so difficult to do? Why is it so much easier to shame than it is to love? Right? Like, anyway.
Because you have to love yourself.
But even my kids too, for some reason, like if they screw up, I'm so much quicker to shame and scold and nag than I am to figure out why or listen to them or be compassionate. Like, it still is just like a knee-jerk reaction. I'm like obviously really not proud of, but and maybe I'm hard on myself still.
Do you think that it's easier, not in the form of thinking shame, but easier to just make the assumptions than it is to consider another viewpoint?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I think I tell myself stories, you know, and there's all these fears of like, oh, this decision led here, so if they're going this direction, and oh no, that's terrible, and there's all sorts of fear in it, you know. Versus thinking about talking about it with love and compassion, and what did you learn, and where, you know, what's next, and anyway, just this
Human
like
nature to take the shortest route possible to get to the outcome. And I can see where it's shame, but coming from the also thought of humanity, yeah. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. Human nature, woo, squirrel.
I think that shame and fear stories those start early in life. And part of our work in growing, in changing, and growth towards our purpose is rewriting those stories, uncovering, becoming aware of them, and then rewriting them. So you really nailed it, I think, with when you said there's shame, but then you tell yourself stories and you're afraid that something's going to happen, or there's that core fear kind of kicks in before the conscious thought does, and you catch yourself. But so bringing awareness to it. I don't know, I'm picking up all of these words that thread together. Yeah, but stories is a big part of the whole shame thing that causes us to be inauthentic and hard on ourselves because of fear that stems out of shame and trying to not be.
Yeah. I think you finished.
What?
I think Jill finished my thought.
Oh, good. Yay. Kindred spirits.
That yeah, our lives are built up of stories, and because we're humans, it's easier to do a corrective action than it is to stop and listen and look at other people's perspectives. I mean, watch the news and you see that all over the place. One-sided. Let's not be CNN. Listen to both sides of the story.
All right, what's the next chapter?
Cultivating resilience, letting go of numbing and powerlessness.
Zowie.
Yeah,
That's gonna be good.
yeah. I scored
It's
high.
hard. It's
What's that?
gonna be hard.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting one.
What was your gas tank at, Jill?
It was pretty full when I took this towards resilient.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't know how I did that. I don't know.
Well, maybe you are. I
think
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, maybe I was feeling it at the moment, but
Yeah.
It's your bad talk. Good God.
I was a half tank on that one. I'm a quarter tank on perfectionism though, so so I guess I'm pretty resilient compared to being self-compassionate. So maybe this is I think a half as high as I ever gotten anything.
maybe because, yeah, the perfectionism may be the key to that.
Yeah, I know.
Are you talking about the website thing that I still haven't done?
Oh yeah, you gotta go check it out. We're just whetting the appetite for you.
Yep.
That inventory thing?
Yeah.
It's just a fun little thing.
Take a bet I'm at quarter of a tank on everything.
Oh, I bet you'd be surprised.
I bet you would.
You too. I mean, you are 40s something, right? Are you 40 yet?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
You're not? Oh man, I thought we were all somewhat the same age. Shoot.
34.
You're 34? You're so worldly and experienced for such a young lady.
Thank you.
Look at you, 34, sheesh. All right.
Well, ironically, when Jill first said the gap in gain in the statement, I thought about the military and the saying that they had in basic training where You're either going to be smart or you're going to be strong. A lot of people got super smart super quick because they were tired of getting strong.
That's good.
Andrea? You go open
All
the
right.
door.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta go,
Yep.
guys.
Yep. You
Have a good
too.
night, ladies.
All right. See ya.
We'll see ya. Bye, Bonnie.
Bye,
I'm
Bonnie.
coming, Ella.